The hidden leaf village lay under a blanket of darkness, the moon veiled by thick clouds as if the heavens themselves feared what was to come. Deep within the shadows of the abandoned Uchiha compound, Sasuke Uchiha stood motionless, his Sharingan glowing crimson in the gloom. The air crackled with tension, his chakra a storm barely contained. Before him, the remnants of the Akatsuki, now fractured after Pain's defeat, gathered, their loyalty no longer to a dead dream but to the one who had forced them to kneel, him. It had begun weeks ago, a calculated strike against Konoha's enemies. Sasuke, weary of being a pawn in others' games, had sought power beyond the grasp of even the five cage. The Akatsuki, weakened but still formidable, had been his target. Deidara's explosive arrogance, Kisame's brutal loyalty, even the elusive Zetsu, all had fallen before his perfected Mangekyo Sharingan. Now, they stood as his blades, their wills bent to his command. But one remained defiant, Itachi's former partner, the masked enigma known as Tobi. The clash had been inevitable. The underground hideout trembled as Tobi's Kamui warped space itself, his orange mask reflecting the dim torchlight. "You're a fool, Sasuke," he taunted, voice dripping with mock amusement. The Akatsuki was never meant to serve a child's vengeance. Sasuke didn't dignify him with words. His hand blurred, lightning screeching to life in his palm, Chidori's sharp spear. The blue-white energy lanced forward, but Tobi phased through it, his body intangible. Yet Sasuke had anticipated this. His left eye pulsed, Amaterasu's black flames erupting mid-air, searing the space where Tobi would rematerialize. The masked man twisted, but the edge of the flames caught his cloak, forcing him to abandon it. "Impressive," Tobi conceded, though his tone remained light. "But you'll need more than borrowed eyes to defeat me." He lunged, his chainmail glove whipping out, a kunai gleaming with poison. Sasuke's Sharingan tracked every millimeter, Susanoo's skeletal ribs erupted around him, deflecting the strike with a resonant clang. The force sent cracked spider webbing through the stone floor. Sasuke wasn't done. His Susanoo flared to its next stage, armored and wielding a blazing bow. The arrow loosed with a sound like tearing reality, forcing Tobi to retreat into his Kamui dimension. But Sasuke had studied his enemy. The moment Tobi vanished, Sasuke's Rinnegan flared, his left hand slamming into the ground. Universal pull. The invisible force yanked Tobi back into the physical world mid-transition, his mask cracking under the strain. The Akatsuki watched in stunned silence. Kisame's shark-like grin widened. Well. Looks like the kid's got teeth." Deidara, though resentful, couldn't deny the artistry in Sasuke's brutality. Tobi staggered, but his laughter was unnerving. "You've grown, Sasuke. But power alone won't change the world." Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "I don't seek to change it. I'll destroy it, and rebuild from the ashes." His Susanoo sword descended, a violet arc of annihilation. Tobi barely dodged, the shockwave carving a canyon through the hideout's foundation. The battle raged, each combatant pushing their limits. Tobi unleashed his wood style, massive branches erupting to ensnare Sasuke, only to be reduced to cinders by inferno-style flames. Sasuke countered with Kirin, the dragon of lightning summoned from the storm above, its roar shaking the earth. Tobi barely survived, his mask shattered, revealing a face that made Sasuke's blood run cold, a face too much like his own. But before the final blow could land, Tobi vanished, his voice echoing. "This isn't over, Sasuke Uchiha. The Akatsuki was never yours to control." Breathing heavily, Sasuke dismissed his Susanoo. The Akatsuki knelt before him, their resistance broken. Yet the victory felt hollow. The mask's revelation. The secret still buried. His grip on the Akatsuki was absolute, but the war had only just begun. And in the shadows, a single crow, Itachi's last gift, watched silently. The battlefield was a storm of chaos, chakra crackling like lightning as Sasuke Uchiha stood at the center of it all, his Rinnegan pulsing with power. The Akatsuki, once feared as the most dangerous organization in the shinobi world, now moved at his command, their loyalty forced but unshaken. Across from him, Naruto Uzumaki gritted his teeth, Kurama's crimson chakra swirling around him like a second skin. "You've gone too far, Sasuke," he shouted, his voice raw with fury. Sasuke smirked, his Sharingan spinning as he raised a hand. "You still don't understand, do you? This world needs control, a revolution only I can bring." With a flick of his wrist, Pain and Konan lunged forward, their movements synchronized. Pain's almighty push erupted in a shockwave, forcing Naruto to skid back, his feet carving trenches into the earth. Before he could recover, Konan's paper shuriken rained down, each one razor-sharp and deadly. Naruto's clones burst into existence, intercepting the assault with Rasengans, the spinning spheres of energy detonating midair in a cascade of explosions. But Sasuke wasn't idle. His Susanoo's skeletal arm materialized, swinging a massive chakra blade toward Naruto. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground, but Naruto twisted midair, summoning a tailed beast bomb at point-blank range. The explosion engulfed them both, the force hurling debris in every direction. From the smoke, Sasuke emerged unscathed, his rinnegan flaring. Predictable, he muttered before vanishing in a blur. Naruto barely had time to react as Sasuke reappeared behind him, a Chidori screaming in his palm. The thrust was lightning fast, but Naruto's instincts kicked in. He pivoted, Kurama's tails lashing out like whips, deflecting the attack and countering with a swipe that sent Sasuke skidding back. Nearby, Kakashi and Obito clashed in a deadly dance of Kamui. Kakashi's Sharingan spun as he phased through Obito's attacks, his Reikiri humming with lethal precision. "You're wasting your time," Obito taunted, his own Mangekyo flaring. "Sasuke's vision is the only future that matters." Kakashi didn't respond, his movements sharp, calculating. He feinted left before warping behind Obito, his blade aiming for the spine. But Obito twisted, their Kamui abilities canceling each other out in a vortex of distorted space. Meanwhile, Sakura and Itachi faced off, her fists glowing with chakra-enhanced strength while Itachi's Amaterasu flames licked at the air. "You're not the real Itachi," Sakura growled, dodging a black fireball that incinerated the ground where she'd stood. "But I'll still knock some sense into you." She lunged, her punch cratering the earth as Itachi backflipped, his Susanoo's ribcage forming just in time to absorb the shockwave. The battles raged on, each fighter pushing past their limits. Naruto's chakra flared as he entered Six Paths Sage mode, his golden aura illuminating the battlefield. Sasuke's rinnegan pulsed in response, his own power surging. "This ends now," Naruto declared, forming a massive Rasen Shuriken. Sasuke answered with a perfect Susanoo, its colossal sword raised high. The clash was cataclysmic, energy collided in a deafening explosion, the shockwave tearing apart the landscape. When the dust cleared, both stood battered but unbroken. Sasuke's breath was ragged, his eyes locked onto Naruto's. "You still refuse to see the truth," he hissed. Naruto wiped blood from his lip, his gaze unwavering. "The only truth is that we're stronger together, Sasuke. Always have been." The tension thickened, the final confrontation looming, neither willing to yield, both ready to unleash everything they had left. The fate of the world hung in the balance. The air crackled with energy as Sasuke Uchiha stood atop the crumbling ruins of the Hidden Rain, his rinnegan blazing with power. Below him, the remnants of the Akatsuki, now his loyalists, clashed against the united forces of the five great nations. The sky burned crimson, reflecting the fury of the final battle. Naruto, his once best friend, charged forward, Kurama's chakra erupting around him like a storm. "You don't have to do this, Sasuke," Naruto roared, his voice raw with desperation. But Sasuke's expression remained cold, his resolve unshaken. "This world is broken," he hissed. "And I will remake it." Their fists collided, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The ground shattered beneath them as Sasuke's perfect Susanoo clashed against Naruto's tailed beast mode. Flames and lightning intertwined, each strike shaking the earth. Around them, the Akatsuki fought with ruthless precision. Konan's paper shuriken sliced through enemy ranks, while Kisame's Seimata devoured chakra in great, ravenous gulps. But the allied shinobi forces refused to yield. Sakura's fists cratered the earth as she smashed through white Zetsu clones, her heart torn between duty and the boy she once loved. Sasuke's eyes flickered to Naruto's face, seeing not just an enemy but the ghost of their bond. For a fraction of a second, hesitation flickered in his chest. That was all Naruto needed. With a burst of speed, he drove a Rasengan into Sasuke's ribs, sending him skidding back. Blood trickled from Sasuke's lips, but he smirked. "You've gotten stronger," he admitted. Naruto's eyes burned. "And you've gotten lonelier." The word struck deeper than any jutsu. Sasuke's rinnegan pulsed as he unleashed Chibaku Tensei, summoning a massive gravitational orb that dragged the battlefield upward. Rocks, debris, and even shinobi were pulled into its crushing embrace. Naruto gritted his teeth, forming a barrage of shadow clones to counter with Rasen Shuriken. The explosions lit up the sky, a dazzling display of power and desperation. But Sasuke wasn't done. With a roar, he activated Indra's arrow, channeling the might of his Susanoo into a single, devastating strike. Naruto met it head-on, Kurama's chakra flaring as he poured every ounce of strength into his counter. The clash was cataclysmic. Light swallowed the world, blinding everyone for miles. When it faded, both men lay broken, their bodies pushed beyond limits. Sasuke's Susanoo flickered and died, his chakra nearly depleted. Naruto's tailed beast cloak had vanished, his breathing ragged. But neither would surrender. Crawling toward each other, they met in the center of the devastation, fists swinging like they were back in the Valley of the End. Then, a whisper. "I understand now," Sasuke gasped, his Sharingan fading. Naruto's fist stopped inches from his face. "What?" Sasuke's smirk was weary but genuine. "You were right. About everything." The admission hung in the air, heavy with the weight of years of hatred and regret. Naruto's anger melted into relief, then sorrow. He pulled Sasuke into a tight embrace. "Took you long enough, bastard." Around them, the fighting ceased. The Akatsuki lowered their weapons, their loyalty to Sasuke now a question without an answer. Konan's eyes softened as she watched the two rivals turn brothers. The war was over. In the aftermath, the shinobi world was forever changed. Sasuke, stripped of his vengeful drive, chose redemption. He disbanded the Akatsuki, freeing its members to find their own paths. Naruto, hailed as a hero, began the arduous task of rebuilding trust between nations. And Sakura, her heart still aching but hopeful, founded a medical initiative to heal the scars of war. As the sun rose over a new era, Sasuke stood at the village gates, his cloak fluttering in the wind. Naruto joined him, grinning. "Where to now?" Sasuke glanced at him, then at the horizon. "Wherever the road takes us." For the first time in years, the future felt uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. Together,